This episode is brought to you by Muntins Malts, a company that is passionate about providing premium malts to brewers worldwide. For over a century, Muntins has been a leading supplier of brewing and distilling malts, offering the finest British malted barley on the market. You can experience the difference Muntins offers by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club, because every kit that ships out now includes premium Muntins malt. You know, we've known the Muntins crew for a long time, and I can tell you, friend, you're going to love brewing with their grains. Ask your local supply shop to carry Muntins malts, or homebrewers can join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club, be a part of the community, and come brew with us. Thank you, Muntins, for supporting our efforts and homebrewers worldwide. Today's show is brought to you by hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's hopsdirect.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Natural pressure versus adding pressure for fermentation, planning out a brew day, and should I transfer before lagering my batch? This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 410. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show, not one of many, it's the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. And if you, my friend, have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you could go to homebrewhappyhour.com. You could email joshua@homebrewhappyhour.com, but even better, you could call it into 325-305-6107. And when I use your voicemail question on a future episode, you get yourself a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. Pretty sweet, right? And pretty easy. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Stubing, joined as always by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com down there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer of kegconnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me so early. We're recording on a morning. I appreciate it, because Todd is going to be, I thought it was some doctor visit or something. I was going to make fun of you for being old and falling apart and all that, but no, it's actually business.
That's all true as well.
It is also true, but no, you're actually doing business. There's a very exciting prospective install that you're going to be doing, a commercial install. So
yes, it should be. I'm not exactly sure how many taps at this point, but I'll know after the meeting. But it'll be a lot. It'll be quite a few taps. It's a really nice brewery that's already open in Stephenville, but they're moving into a new location that's going to be very, very nice. I can't wait to determine what system they need and get that installed for them. And I also can't wait to go out there and try some more of their beers.
Yeah.
I had some a few days ago.
I was just saying, oh, well, yeah, what a rough life you live. Also, we are on the countdown. You guys, are y'all leaving Friday or Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday.
That's the actual flight out. Remind me how it works. Y'all leave here late to arrive there early? Or isn't it kind of standard that y'all arrive in Frankfurt at like 8?
We arrived the next day.
At 8, like around 8 a.m., right?
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't remember on this flight. It may be even earlier than that, but yeah.
I just remember the very first time Todd took me, I could not sleep. I didn't have it figured out yet that you just take 4 Z-Quills and a whiskey drink. But before I had it figured out, James, I remember not sleeping the whole flight, just being very excited. Oh, this is the best ever. But then we arrived at like whatever early morning, and I was exhausted that whole first day. Jet lag whooped my butt. It killed me. I know you have issues sometimes sleeping on the plane. Have you gotten it figured out though, so that you're not affected by jet lag?
No.
It's still gonna get you.
I don't sleep on a plane.
So
period.
So how both of y'all just arrive tired? That's how just the reality of it.
Yeah, I mean the secret, I don't know, for me at least, is I we get there early. And it is what it is, and you just got to stay up, because if you go to sleep, you're screwed. Like it just lingers and lingers and lingers. So if you can stay up until, sometimes I'm like, if I could stay up till 8, I will meet my goal. Sometimes I've stayed up till like 10, and God, you just die when you go to sleep. Like you're just dead. So.
James, same with you. You just push through it, I guess, like that first day.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
Todd and I, the first time we went to Solange, I forget the name of the town, because there was a knife factory there called Gouda, Gude, not like the cheese.
It's wonderful knives.
But I was literally falling asleep. Well, like we're doing this knife tour, and we go back to the owner. Todd has a way of sneaking himself into the offices of high-ranking people at companies, and we're in the owner's office, and he's going over the history, and it's exciting probably. But I remember. Do you not remember, Todd? You were asking me if I was okay because I'm leaning on like the guy's bookshelf. Like basically falling asleep. It was not.
Oh yeah, it's rough sometimes.
It was rough. But then we went to that. Who makes gummy bears? Harborough, or who makes? We went to that factory too.
You talking about in Europe or in Colorado?
No. I meant gummy bears. The actual. We went to, remember, after the knife factory, we went there, and all of a sudden I woke up. I had no problems. I was like, So it just turns out I'm a child. Some small talk before we get into the show and the Trub Club stuff and all that. I want to tell y'all, speaking of being old and feeling tired, I went to a 20th anniversary concert for a metal band my buddies and I were into in high school.
What was it?
They're called Under Oath, and they were doing a tour just for an album they put out 20 years ago. And happens to be my favorite album of theirs. So Monday night concert at Stubbs in Austin. It's a
nice. Wow, you're a man's man. I couldn't have done that.
Well, I am grateful. The show ended by like 10:30. So it was like, hey, good. They're also old. Bunch of, I'm 39. They're probably a bunch of 40-year-olds. What I wanted to bring it up though, 2 things. One, beer selection at decent venues is still garbage. If y'all were wondering, it's still not good. I didn't want to pay $9 for a beer. So instead I paid $9 for a cocktail. But I was very surprised. Do you know what their well whiskey was? If you had to guess what brand their well whiskey was? Well as in the bottom shelf like that.
Yeah, I know what well means.
Yeah,
it
was Tin Cup.
Tell us.
It was Tin Cup.
Oh, that's a good whiskey.
That's what I said. I was like, that's not bad at all. Like, if that's
the last few concerts I've been to, the beers have been really good. I mean, they had a good beer slate. Where was the Toyota one? Is the last one I went to? I think it's in
Houston.
It's not Fort Worth. It's DFW area, but I can't remember it's that. Is it Grapevine, the community that had their own train and everything?
No idea.
Anyway, yeah, it was Toyota, and they had a good beer selection.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'm just going to the wrong venue. Well, to be fair, I don't really go to shows.
And it cracks me up that you're talking about. What time did the concert end?
Like 10:30. I was happy.
Yeah, the concerts that Liz and I go to, they end at like 9 now, 'cause like Earth, Wind, and Fire, I mean, it's like... It's already an hour past their bedtime at 9. So.
Oh yeah, it was funny. There was, like, being a metal show, there was all the stereotypical mosh pitting and all that. There was a ton of people not in that though, because they were all a bunch of middle-aged dudes, like, just sitting there sipping drinks. Like, this is a good show, but
Las Colinas. That's what I was trying to think of.
Never. Yeah. Okay, the Toyota Arena or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a cool venue. I really like. It's called the Toyota Music Factory, and I really like the venue. But anyway, we're talking about
Beer
music venues instead of
the whole reason I just
homebrew.
brought it up was because I only go to either sports arenas or like this show and I wouldn't say Stubbs is a big venue. It's not tiny. It's historic in Austin.
Oh, I love Stubbs.
Stubbs
Yeah,
is a
what
great place. The sound is always it's not my favorite. Antone's is my absolute favorite. Whoever is the sound engineer at Antone's deserves all the money they make and then some. It is incredible how they make that room sound. But Stubbs is great. Just the beer wasn't. I was ready to have a beer. The cold front was blowing in. So I'm in my, jean jacket and a nice breeze, even with all the body heat. But I didn't want to pay $9 for.
Well, surely they had Shiner Bock.
You know what? I didn't even see that. I'm sure they did, but I didn't see it.
So I don't know if it's the beer selection or the cost that you're talking about. Because you keep saying beer selection, but then you keep saying $9. $9. $9 is just what you pay for a beer.
Would you pay $9 for a Shiner Bock? Would you?
Absolutely.
Oh God, you're no, it's not. It's not worth $9. I'd rather have a cocktail for $9. I'm gonna at least get more buzz for my buck.
Yeah, it's probably like and the ones I had like at that last one I went to, I think they were like 20 or 24 ounce beers too. So
okay. Yeah, no, these were standard old 12, I guess is 12 or 16 is the standard bottle.
My dad had this old saying about going to a bar, and he went to a bar with someone. Now, granted, this was like probably in the 80s, and the beer was like $4, which would be like $12 now, right?
At least.
And he told the guy, he said, "Golly, I can't believe the beers are." And the guy said, "The beer's actually only $1. It's the other $3 is to keep the riffraff out of the place."
Well, this was a sold out show and I was there. So the riffraff was still there. I was doing the math because tickets weren't cheap. They're like $40 or something.
That's cheap.
Okay. Well, times that by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of people. I don't know what can fit at Stubbs. The concert, what I'm getting at is Concert Connection coming in 2025. We're going to open up a venue in Austin. Seems like a good moneymaker to me, and just sell beer for $12, and you're going to drink it because that's all there is, and you wanted to drink. So anyways, let me get into actual relevant small talk. If you want to brew the recipe of the month, go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Join a recipe receiving tier. You're going to get the delicious melt stout shipped out to you at the end of the month. And actually, it's going to be, I think, next week when I'm up there.
Milk stout. I forgot. That's what we were doing. It's going to be
a milk stout.
I like milk stout.
My pop and I, though, for the Brew Day Live, which is November 29th at 10 a.m. Central at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour, we're going to be doing the breakfast stout for that because...
Oh, you are? Okay. Because y'all were kind of going back and forth on that.
No, I've determined, or I decided, not determined, that we will be doing the breakfast stout for that Brew Day Live. But the melt stout, my dad was like, "Oh, we could do the melt stout this year instead." I was like, "No, breakfast stout is what we do every year."
Tradition.
He was sounding like you, Todd. We're like, "Oh, we don't need to do the old poco." No, tradition. It matters.
Old poco's not really tradition. We've only done it twice.
But again, patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Join a recipe receiving tier for that delicious melt stout. Thank you to our sponsors, Munton's Malt, hopsdirect.com, and of course, Imperial Yeast for providing the premium ingredients that allow us to ship out the premium recipes. And it reminds me, it is cold today, and I don't think it's getting above 70. I don't know how long it's lasting, but thank God it's finally getting to the weather where I don't have to freak out about our liquid yeast arriving in good shape. We still ice pack it. Thank God, though, because sometimes if it sits on a FedEx truck, I'll get a picture from someone in Maine. Or what's the furthest it takes to ship, James, from our location? Would you say Maine, or would you say like Pacific Northwest? I don't ever know.
Yeah, they're about the same.
They're
4
about
days.
Yeah, we do actually have
East, West Coast, 4 days.
We have a lot more people in the Pacific Northwest than we do in the Northeast. And sometimes I'll get a photo like, "Hey, this pouch, it's like bloated. It looks like me on a Friday night, super bloated." And it's like, "Hey, is this still safe?" Yeah. It's going to be fine. Thank God for the premium yeast because it has always been fine. No one's had any issues, but it gets kind of dicey there in like August-ish when it's 100 some odd degree days. 30.
Yeah, but it's winter now. We're good.
We are good now. last call, not last call. It is basically last call. You do have a full week if you want to join and get that there. And don't forget, guys, the Brew Day Live, Friday, November the 29th at 10 a.m. Central, right here at youtube.com/Homebrew Happy Hour. And then the final bit of small talk, and I won't go too infomercially on you guys, but there is huge site-wide sales going on right now at kettconnection.com. Tons of stuff up to 50% off. Most of the stuff is 30% off or more. And then I'll spoil it, Todd. We're about to launch 15% off for everything else. So
Yep.
it's going to be, it's a good time to be over at kettconnection.com shopping. Get your Christmas shopping done, even if it's for yourself. Just do it.
This is a well thought out strategy of yours to wait to launch the 15% off.
It was yes. I read some marketing books and, but they didn't have pictures or coloring. So I put them down and then you
didn't just forget to launch it in the first launch, right?
That's right. I didn't
like that. Okay.
Okay. What Todd's getting at is we have a master list of things we follow, and I apparently didn't read the whole list. That is what he is referring to. Not on brand for me though, guys. Normally I'm on it, but right now.
Well, no, I think it was a strategy.
Strategy, or as George W. would say, strategery. It was some strategery.
Oh, it was one of the strategeries. Okay.
It was. I read a book on strategery and nuclear strategery. So anyways, I do believe that's everything we have to say. We don't have listener feedback, but I did bring 3 voicemail questions. So the gong of questions begins the show. Our first question for this week is a voicemail. It's our buddy Scott from Wisconsin.
Hey guys, this is Scott from Janesville, Wisconsin. I had a quick question about pressure fermenting. I've done several batches of pressure fermentation and it's all turned out great. But recently I've heard people talk about possibly leaving it off pressure for like the first 2 days to get a little more ester production. Just wondering if any of you have tried that or if you think it's necessary. And then a question going along with that is, is it okay to set your spunning valve at 0 pressure, or should you connect like a blow off tube to that if I was to say leave it off pressure for a few days? All right. Thanks a lot, guys. You do a great job. I love the show. Bye.
James, we are the internet's leading and foremost experts on pressure fermentation now. It's wildly accepted. I brought this question. We take for pressure fermentation questions all the time, but you and I sort of do it the same, but also sometimes different. You're always doing lagers, and my understanding, you're always adding pressure right after you pitch. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've had issues with it pressuring up itself. We kind of get I had one Pilsen that had lots of phenols or phenolics in it. And Lorena was the one that told me about it. And ever since then, 2 things. I know Jonathan had mentioned that temperature's not really an issue if you pressure it up, but I've run into issues where anything above 80 pressured can create phenolics in the beer. So here's what I do now. I try to hit it as close to 70 as I can. I pressure it to 10 pounds right after I pitch the yeast. And as long as I do that, I don't have any phenolics. Now, if you want esters, you can definitely do that at room temp or just a little bit warmer, but that's not anything I ever shoot for. So I don't even know if I should comment about that, but it is possible to get esters with a little warmer fermentation, but there's a boundary layer where you can get into fusel alcohol and some really bad stuff.
Well, I'm glad you
got to watch it.
I'm glad you said that because I knew you doing lagers, you're not going for esters. You don't want those in them. You want it clean.
Yeah, neutral.
Yeah. And so I brought the question because I knew that. And so with my pop and I, what I've been doing is on beers that I do want esters, I don't add pressure immediately if we can be 77 or below. And that's arbitrary, guys, watching this or listening to this, as the vast majority of you do. 77 is not scientific. It's anecdotal to my experience. Like James said, if you're 80 or above, man, you're pushing it in regards to you might get some stuff in there you don't want, or not necessarily off flavors that make it undrinkable, just something in there that's like, that wasn't exactly what I was going for. That Kolsch might be a little fruitier than I wanted, or whatever. But
yeah, you just got to watch. And also, this is the most important thing. You got to go with what the yeast manufacturer recommends. So that yeast strain, if it is designed to create esters at a certain temperature, then that's the one you want to use. But always consult the manufacturer if you're for what you're trying to do. You don't want to use the wrong yeast for the kind of beer profile you're shooting for. So that's very important.
That's an excellent point. You're right. And again, this is also not made up, but kind of arbitrary, and also based off of what Jonathan's told me and what Trong has told me. Those two are, I always have them in my ear, solicited. I want their advice. I'll reach out to them every now and then. But the rule of thumb I've been told, or the general wisdom, was like, if you, is it, oh gosh, now I'm going to forget it. Obviously I pay attention when you guys talk to me. It's like 10 degrees above whatever the package says. If you're doing pressure is what is safe. And I'm doing air quotes for audio listeners. Safe as in like, you could probably get decent results. Jonathan had sent me a spreadsheet at one point of people's anecdotal experiences with it. It'll say the yeast strain, the style of beer they did, what temperature they pressured at, and pitched at, and what they kept it at during the pressure, and what the results were. And a lot of those guys seemed like, if your yeast says the range is 58 to 68, okay, then you're probably, if you're going to do pressure immediately upon pitching, you're probably okay at 78. And probably, I'm emphasizing the probably, guys, that it's not a guaranteed science. But like James was saying, following the package, the manufacturer's things, keeps you as safe as you can be, because they know their product better. That, you know what I mean? Like, I would trust them as opposed to like, oh, Imperial on there says that this can handle 70. I'm going to go up to 85. Like, nah, even with pressure, you're going to get some stuff in there you probably don't like. One of the interesting things on this, though, of his question that I wanted to address or get your opinion, I've never started a batch with natural pressure without my spunning valve already on it and set. And what I mean by that is I can take an empty keg. If my spunning valve hasn't been calibrated or calibrated, I can take an empty keg, put it on the, well, I guess, I don't know. Oh, I've been doing it with the liquid post. I've been taking the gas line with the liquid post to pressurize it. So I put the spunning valve, which is a gas disconnect, on the gas side, and I will set it to 10 or 12. And I can do that before ever using it on the fermenter. And that way, if I'm allowing natural pressure to build during the fermentation, it will start releasing once it hits that threshold. James, have you ever considered, I'm going to let it start natural with a blow-off tube or whatever, and then add a spunning valve? Or would you have just kept the spunning valve on?
Yeah, no, the spunning valve's a check valve as well. So there's no reason, if you want to pull it down to 0, then you can. I mean, you should be able to set it however you want. Just watch it, because I don't know every one that's out there. So maybe it doesn't work as good if it's off pressure. If you question it, then just put a blow-off tube on it. Yeah,
right. Like off of the spunning valve?
No, just remove the spunning valve. Just go back to the regular
fermentation,
regular blow-off tube and regular fermentation, and then do what you want to do. If you're doing that to create esters, just do it for a few days during primary fermentation, and then go back to the spunning valve and let it get up to 10, 12 psi, like you said. I like the fact that I'm not going for that, so I leave it on there the whole time, because it naturally carbonates as well, which is nice.
Absolutely. I agree with that. That is one of my favorite things about doing the pressure fermentation. It has made transferring and consumption so much easier for us in regard, like, to the keg. Like, transferring is a breeze. We're using any kind of fermenter that has posts on it now for closed transferring. That's been a game changer for us. But when I'm doing it under pressure and I'm leaving it all a primary at 10 to 12, like you said, once I get to the keg, it's damn near ready. Obviously you got you want to cold condition it because I'm doing it at room temp, so the beer is not cold. However, the carbonation levels, oh my gosh, it's like, we have that video that's popular on our YouTube channel that Todd and I have talked about re-recording for a while because he forced carbs differently than he did back then. I would almost say, James, you and I should do a video of the benefits of pressure fermentation in regards to carbonation levels when you're packaging, because it's there. It's like, I don't do the forced carb method anymore.
Well, a lot of people don't realize when it's fermenting, it's actually carbonated because that's what's being produced from the yeast when it's eating the sugars. You're just maintaining that through the whole fermentation process and into conditioning. And I like it because you could actually, I think it kind of would save you a little bit on CO2 as well.
I agree.
Plus, you don't have to shake and once you get it done, it's finished, it's ready to go. You might want to top it off, but you could top it off by sitting and forgetting it. And I just like it. I mean, I haven't done regular fermentation without pressure in years.
It's been a very long time for you. Now, Todd, throwing it to you, you are still very much you're using a big conical with a blow off tube. You're going to the very brim every batch. And I know when you're brewing, because when I stay at the barn all night, blah, 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 blah. That's what it sounds like from the blow off tube.
Right.
I know. And again, with your setup, it's also very easy to carbonate it when it comes time. Is there anything that would change what you're doing? Not saying you should. Your beer's turning out great. We don't want to suck up to you too much this episode, but your beer turns out great. So I'm not saying to change your process, but is there any reason you haven't just done pressure fermentation from the beginning? Is it because you already have the setup for how you've been doing it?
I mean, I do have pressure fermentation. I have 2 of them. Or 3 of them at the barn. For some reason, one of them's supposed to be yours. I don't know.
It is. I got to take it back. Yeah.
So anyway, I do it, but I usually only do it on ales. I don't do it on lagers.
Okay. But
and usually, even when I do it on ales, frankly, I don't usually pressure ferment. I just let it bubble in that big pressure fermentation tank.
Right. When I wonder if I had a glycol setup.
And to answer your question, the reason I do it that way is I have the ability to maintain the temperatures no matter which way I'm doing it. So if I'm doing an ale, I've got a room I can put it in and put the AC exactly where I want it for that ale. And if I'm doing a lager, I've got the glycol system so I can keep it exactly where I want it to for that lager.
And that brings up another good talking point. So when my pop and I did our first brew day of this year, which was at Kolsch, even though it was cold and my office was in that range, I let that one build up to 10 to 12 before blowing off. That was the best batch of Kolsch we've ever had, in my opinion, that we've ever brewed. And it was a pressure fermented one, even with the temps. James, as it's getting colder and that brew room, in theory, if y'all turned off the power come December, January, turn off the heat, that room would probably stay in the range of the yeast. Are you still going to be pressure fermenting even in the colder weather?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not going to, I don't plan on doing it any other way, but y'all both know I'm pretty single-minded when it comes to brewing. I like what I like, and that's what I brew.
No, for sure. I just didn't know if you change it because you know what? I say that. No, you brewed last year and kept it the same way. You've been doing pressure for almost 3 years, I think. Mm-hmm. It's coming up on 3 for sure. And that's right. You did a batch. What did you brew? You brewed this January because I documented it. I don't know if it was a Pilsner or a lager or whatever.
No, sure it was.
Yeah,
that's
right.
all I've been brewing.
Yeah.
So.
I
do just different style, different recipes. You know, I kind of play around with different. That's my thing right now. That's all I really want to brew is Pilsners.
Yeah, I don't blame you. All I want to brew is Kolsch, but Trub Club has kept me a diverse man, and we'll talk about that the second question. But
thank goodness,
yeah.
Thank goodness.
Which reminds me, well, 2 things. You in the group chat, Todd was just blowing up how incredible the birthday pills, which you brewed a while ago, but also he was telling me on a phone call earlier this week that I don't know the last pills or lager you just brewed, if it was just a straight up lager or if it was some specialty one.
It was just a regular Pilsner, but I was using the Planet malt and I did Spalter hops for the bittering, and then I finished it off with some what we had left of the lemon drop hop.
Well, Todd said it turned out great. Like
it's fantastic. I mean, it's really, really good. So
it's super cloudy though.
Yeah, give it time.
But yeah, Todd's gonna lager his. I haven't. I'm just like I said on the text. That's my biggest flaw right now is I have no patience.
But why should you? Like, I want to drink it. I want to drink it right now. But that reminds me.
Well, but the reason that I was saying is that the one that's at my barn that's been sitting there for. I mean, we served it at my dad's birthday party, I think.
Yep, you did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know how long ago that. Well, I can tell you how long ago that was because I know what his birthday is. So it was more than a month ago.
Yeah.
2 months ago.
And I filtered that too.
And it's gotten better and better as it's lagered longer. So, I mean, it just now it's just so clean and fresh. It's really. It was good at the party, but it's definitely better now. I mean, I think there is some argument for it. I mean,
that's a style
like an 8-week lagering. If you could if you could manage to lager it a couple months, it'd be a completely different beer. I can't imagine even having the patience to do that unless I had. Well, I probably could if I did a lot of brewing. You know, if I brewed like at least once a week and had enough stored back to where you could do that.
Right. Or you do your 15 gallons, give Todd his, and then take 10 home. And that way, one of those fivers is going to lager by default, you know.
I've done that.
Well, yeah. And the only reason that one has yeast in it is you said you didn't turn the valve thing, but that's going to fall out immediately. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'll probably just put a gas on it and suck some of that out of the with the dip tube and then let it sit longer, and then I'll probably use one of those or maybe I won't even do that. I'll just use a float it to transfer to another keg.
That's what I'm talking about.
It'll be great.
I mean, I did on those kegs when I kegged that beer, I did reposition the dip tube because all three of them were down in that little divot. And when I was cleaning it up, I saw that, put my hand down in there, and I moved the tube up about that far above the floor of the keg.
Oh, you did?
I was able to bend it.
That's brilliant. So that's real smart.
That makes a big difference.
Huge difference. Yeah.
Because you got to understand they're originally designed for soda, and soda doesn't have yeast in it. So they're wanting to get they want to yield everything they can out of that keg. So that's why that's there. But for everybody out there, when I first started brewing beer a long time ago, I'd buy those off of eBay and I'd cut a half an inch off, get it out of that little divot, that little hole, that little, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, exactly.
It wouldn't suck every time you would draw beer, you know, all that trube would go down to the bottom and it would just come pick it back up into the beer.
Yep. Oh yeah. But again, like Todd was saying, well, people still cut, or people will cut high and add a floating dip tube, or like me again, using the lid and a floating dip tube. I use to float it, and game changer. We are living in the best time ever. Stop me, Mr. Burns, if you've heard me say that before. But what I did want to ask you though, Todd, you took home the two I sent up there. I don't need kudos or pats on the back. Have you drafted the Schwartz beer? Because I haven't tried it yet.
Neither.
Okay. No. Okay. Because I'm
going to let them sit until I get back. Or you're welcome to draft them when you're there.
No. I mean,
you don't actually drink beer if I'm not there, so
I don't.
Really matter.
I don't. But is there a full handle of gin there for me? You have the gin?
There's about 3/4 of a gallon. I think that should get you through the 3 days.
No, 6 days. 6 days. James shaking his head. James still has PTSD from liquor from
Ever.
Never again.
That was the worst I've ever been. Yeah, never.
Worst I've ever been with gin.
That's a country song.
That's a song. Yeah.
That was me.
Oh man, I'm not laughing. I mean, you survived. We can laugh about it.
I had a gin and tonic the other day, and I see what you mean now, Josh. I did not realize that tonic was as sweet as it was.
It's so sweet. Oh, it's so sweet.
I thought it just had the
quinine,
in it, and it made it bitter.
No.
So I was like, why doesn't he like that? But I like soda better in it myself because I don't like the sweetness.
I was going to say, I can do, especially on a hot day. I know it's the alcoholic drink, Dad. I know, but I can do gin and soda because it's smooth and it's too sweet. It's just like name any given sweet beer or wine you might like, and after one, you're like, okay, that's enough. I'm not doing that all
Well,
night.
I mean, I was having it with my cousin from England, so you don't tell an Englishman how to make a gin drink.
No
right? So
kidding. Yeah, did you have
I
Beefeater for
drank
them? Did you bring Oh, wait.
he had
Tanqueray.
so I'm not going to tell his name because this would be an embarrassment to his family probably. But
That he's English.
yeah, he had a French gin.
Ew. Well, what?
It was good. It was
Okay.
very, very good. Yeah.
I'll say this. I mean, go USA, but Aviator, not my favorite. I can't think of other American ones off the top of my head. I like Tanqueray. That's my go-to. I'll do Bombay.
Well, I have 3/4 of a gallon for you over there.
Beef
so you're
eater.
ready to go.
Absolutely, my man. But yeah, so wrapping up Scott's question, which I would also solicit if you're watching at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour, leave us feedback below. I know a ton of you are pressure fermenting. Are you doing it naturally, letting it get up with a set spunding valve? Are you letting it naturally and then at some point switching a blow off tube with the spunding valve? Or are you adding it immediately? Because what we're getting at is James is always doing it immediately, producing incredible results. Based on the style, I will switch it up on whether my pop and I are going to be adding pressure immediately or not. And then at the end, setting it to 0 and all that. In my opinion, I would have your pre-calibrated thing on there, even if you're letting it build up naturally, even if it's at 0. If it's a style you feel like needs a blow off dip tube and you can't make it to the temperature range that would be normal for that fermentation, that's a question for people to answer in the comments below, or leave feedback at our hotline and get your $15 gift or $25 gift card. Pardon me. But Scott,
I have no idea what that last part meant. What?
Well, I'm saying I'm not gonna like if you have a style that you think is going to be vigorous, a Hefeweizen, and you're going to need a blow off tube. Maybe.
Oh, okay. I see. A blow off tube versus a bubbler.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I've never pressure fermented without a blow off tube. I didn't.
Wait,
do y'all do that sometimes?
I've never used a blow off tube on any batch of pressure.
I have on this big one back before I was pressure fermenting. I always used a blow off tube, and we had Todd. We used to get malt in those 1-2 gallon pails.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put that with a little sanitizer.
Okay.
And go in there because I didn't want to stress the yeast. But you can definitely do that pressure fermenting, but it takes lots of pressure for that to happen.
Exactly. It takes a lot. Yeah. But again, that's a great question for some feedback below. We appreciate you, Scott, for calling in. And a reminder, friends, if you want to be like Scott and get yourself a $25 gift card, call in a question to 325-305-6107. It is I've made that louder than usual. My apologies, but it is a voicemail heavy episode. Our second question's another one. It's a voicemail from our buddy Stuart from San Diego.
Homebrew Happy Hour team, Stuart from San Diego. Hope you guys are doing well. Seeing the updates coming out from GABF, so keep them coming. Question, not really on brewing process or ingredients, more kind of like philosophy. Just wondering how you guys plan out your brew days. Josh, obviously it's Kolsch, maybe breakfast stout, one in there. But how far in advance are you doing that? I got 2 young kids trying to brew once a month. And so it's, all right, what's on tap? What do I need more of? And really for me, it's how do I reuse my yeast, right? So can I do 3 lagers in a row, maybe a rice lager, a Schwarzbier, and then a Doppelbock or something like that, or 3 English beers in a row to kind of pitch back on those yeast kicks. So just general, how you guys approach that, or if you just kind of on the spur of the moment decide today is the right day to brew and see what's on hand. So hope all is well. Thanks.
Stuart, how dare you? First off, you should know, and this is my shameless pitch for patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Don't even think about it. Join a recipe receiving tier and we ship you a a thoughtfully curated, premium provided ingredient recipe kit from our friends at Muntons, Malt, HopsDirect.com, and Imperial Yeast, then you don't got to think about it. Then we just did a delicious kit, and you brew with the best ingredients. You don't have to repitch and all that. In fact, we'll get Owen on the line. Owen, are you there? Yeah, don't have to repitch. You don't need to. Just use a fresh batch every week. See, that's what you do. But taking off the infomercial side, that is my answer, my contribution. I plan based off of the 12-month that we try to plan out for the Trub Club. My pop and I committed to that.
I just thought of this, Josh. Maybe we should have a sub club. We could call it the Josh's Sub Club.
Sandwiches?
Where for 12 months, every month, you just send out a Kolsch.
Oh my God. That's brilliant. Oh my God. I love that. You're right. We should.
Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. 1 month you send out a.
Oh my God. That is a breakfast stout.
Christmas beer. The breakfast stout. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's legit brilliant. Maybe for 2025. Holy moly. I love this idea. Oh my God, I'm going to look into how we'd make that happen on Patreon, because that's actually brilliant. You're right. Like some people might just want to join it for 1 month, and we've been getting that a lot. I'm not throwing y'all under the bus. I understand. Brewing every month can be tedious. You might not drink it all. Maybe you don't have friends like me. You don't have friends, and we don't have people to share it with. I've actually been, y'all probably remember, guys, Todd and James, on the show. I've chastised my father in the past, like last year. He's giving away our beer. How dare he? It turns out he needs to be. We don't drink fast enough now that we're brewing every month. And so now my tail between my legs. Hey, can you do you want to take some beer to poker so we can clear out that keg? And he looks at me like I'm a disappointment. I know that look, but he,
yeah, it's only 1.7 beers, 12-ounce beers a day.
Yeah, I know.
To finish a 5-gallon keg. I mean, James, we can do that, right?
Oh, that's easy. That's no work at all.
That's no work at all.
Yeah, give me something hard to do.
Hey, and I like that Smoking James is back. Now the group chat has some awesome cigars in there. We need to do cigar connection, because it was JR. You had the Arturo, the Arturo Fernandez, the orange, his RNJ, the Cedros, the cedar wraps, right? Isn't that what you got? And it was like dirt cheap. It was dirt cheap. I bought a 10-pack of it. It was so cheap.
Yeah, I mean, you could buy those cheaper than you could buy a box, and a box is now what, $225?
Like $220.
Like
yeah,
that?
yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, so Stuart, I planned mine out for the Trub Club 2025. Probably going to be the same. I haven't gotten my dad to commit to monthly brew days on that. That'll come up in our year-end show as we're figuring everything out. But James, for a brew day, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You almost seem sporadic. Like on a Wednesday, you'll be like, I'm going to brew this Friday. I would like to.
Yeah, that would put a lot of thought into it. The one thing that I do, and Todd does the same thing, is we go ahead and get our water ready, and then I'll warm it up the afternoon before the morning. And then that way, when you come in, it's always about 100 degrees, and it just doesn't take near as long to heat up and get going.
Todd, would you agree? Now I say, why am I asking Todd? He doesn't brew. Todd, you don't even brew. Why am I asking you? Why are you on the show? Well, you don't have any draft questions this week. What?
All right. I'm
kidding. No, I'm kidding. Stop it. I can only give you flack now, because you would give me flack before my pop and I were monthly brewing. You'd be like, Josh, you're not really brewing at all. I've did 5 batches in the last 5 weeks or whatever it was. You haven't brewed since first quarter of this year. But it hypothetically,
that's a gross exaggeration.
Maybe second quarter. Quarter. I don't know.
I haven't brewed in like little over 2 months.
What was the last time you brewed? Oh,
almost 3 months.
Kolsch?
I brewed a beer before my dad's party.
What did you brew? The Kolsch?
Maybe it was a Kolsch, yeah.
Okay, I thought that you brewed that. Yeah, that would have been second quarter. I thought you brewed that in like April.
Yeah.
Either way, are you planning out brew days meticulously, or is it just hey, I'm low on beer, let's see what ingredients we have, let's brew?
Oh yeah, I mean, I would say 90% of the time when I brew, I come into the office on a Thursday or a Friday, and I go, I should brew on Saturday. And then I go see what ingredients we have, or look at what ingredients we have, and then I'll decide on a recipe and then brew it.
Now, Stuart, I do want to add, we are not just because of the Trub Club and our position in the industry, but our biggest point of privilege is that we have a master spreadsheet of all the ingredients we have that the three of us look at, we update. When James brews, I've been seeing it, you adding it on there, James, what you're taking and all that. We keep the spreadsheet because that would, even if we weren't doing monthly recipe kits, having the spreadsheet cataloged, we took a question on that a couple weeks ago. Having a catalog of inventory, I would think would be the first step of having prior proper preparation for your brew days, because you know, if you keep stuff in stock, you'll want to know what you have before you decide, I'm gonna brew a double IPA, but then you realize, oh crap, I don't even have enough hops for what I'm trying to go for, or whatever. I was sort of kidding or being funny when I was pushing the Trub Club, but the reality is I've gotten a ton of feedback of people who say, especially there's a ton of people over the years that we launched it, the every other month club, people like joining it because they don't have to inventory stuff. And they know, you know, we curate stuff for them. And very rarely does someone go, Josh, should I skip this month? I really don't like that style. We've been pretty good about curating recipes that we like. So therefore we assume other people would like as well. Keeping the spreadsheet makes that easier. If you were trying to save money on yeast, James, I would agree with what his premise is. You're going to have to brew the same kind of style frequently that would use the same yeast, right?
Yeah, unless you want to wash the yeast. I mean, you can do that, but man, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, we're not trying to add work.
And the reason why I say that is there's also a potential for infection too, because you handle it a lot more than you normally would if you just pitch directly on top, which I've done and it's worked. I've read articles that say, no, you should never do that. But I have done it and I've had good results. So to each their own.
Yeah, absolutely. But like you said, it is adding a variable that for something to possibly go wrong, and it's more work. Who, raise your hand if you're looking for more work? No, none of us are. Todd, you were about to interrupt me. What were you going to say?
Oh, I went to look at that spreadsheet because I haven't looked at it in a long time. So you've got beers in July 25, August.
Oh, no.
25.
James, because he didn't have a space for it, he added what he took in those spots. I haven't reorganized. So you're going to go through and take them off. Yeah.
They're not taking off.
Correct. When his gets,
maybe I saw the alt one in there. I thought maybe that was to get ready for the alt contest.
No. James brewed an alt and put it on the spreadsheet. And I account for that in the grains part, then I remove it.
I think I got to add the last one I did. I don't think I've got that in there.
Yeah, no big deal. Yeah. You've been adding them line by line. That's no big deal. No, Todd, we have planned until January for what we are doing for the Trub Club. But then because January is when we have to put in another order for ingredients. It's funny that I'm talking about order for another ingredients. Y'all go up there. We are still drowning in grains, right? That walk-in cooler still has a crap ton.
It's too small for that many grains.
It's way too small.
It kind of gets.
It's way too small.
It's amazing how much space, 400 pounds of grains takes up. It's a lot,
It's a lot. Yeah. And there's way more than 400 pounds in that walk-in. Because I
had to get real creative when I put that in there.
Thank God.
I literally had no room left for any another bag of grain.
I don't know if I gave you kudos for this on the show back then. I was almost crying tears of joy because you had the vision of putting you marked all the lager ones with an L for me that were stacked above being able to actually see the thing. That was a lifesaver and same with the you put P for planet on some. He helps me out a ton because you're 9 foot tall and I'm 4'11", and so I had to climb up the grain bags and look. But then I was like, wait, there's a bunch of lager malt. He marked them for me. Thank God. Yeah.
I know. I'm always quite jealous around here when I need something on a top shelf and I'm going to get a step ladder, and James is like, "Oh, let's get that for you."
Yeah, to you and me, top shelf is a 5 foot shelf. The actual top shelf is 9 feet up there, and James goes, "I can get that." Just grabbing it. It is incredible too.
So when you go buy clothes, so
hey, at the concert though, I don't know if it was because a bunch of my people, half of my people, it was a lot of Mexicans there. I didn't have anyone taller in front of me. It was great. No one could stand in front of me. It was just about me me and a bunch of short Mexicans. I loved it. I was like, yeah, this is how all concerts should be for general admission. Anyway, so wrapping up Stuart's question, this is another one, guys, where I'd love to solicit feedback in the comments below if you're watching at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour. And I did mention to someone in the comments recently, I will comment on y'all's comments all the time, but if it's one that I'm like, man, that'd be good for us to bring up on a future episode, I could do that and you get a $15 gift card and life is good. Or call in that feedback you left there to 325-305-6107. And when I use it on a future episode, that gets you a $25 gift card like our buddy Stuart did, like our first buddy Scott did, and like our third and final question for the show, our buddy Dave gets a $25 gift card for his voicemail. This is Dave from Kansas City.
Hey, Josh, this is Dave from Kansas City. Hope you and James are having a great time out there at the Great American Beer Festival. Kind of wishing I would have made my way there myself. There's still time this weekend if I could get a ticket. Who knows? My question comes to you as I was listening to your most recent episode about pressure fermenting in alt beer. And you spoke a lot about cellaring or lagering your beer to give it time to really come through. My question is, do you think it is more expeditious to lager that beer with the yeast cake still on it, or is it better to transfer it off the yeast to let it, flocculate any more yeast that may be in it and clean up that way? Which way do you think produces the best flavor, lagering flavors, or matures the beer the best? So thank you for your time. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Cheers.
I want to say I'm so grateful that we have voicemails from as far back as GABF. I apologize, Dave. It took me this long to bring it. We did have a great time. Spoiler. We did a recap episode and all that. We had a great time. Lagering on top of yeast. James, is it a bad idea because of what the yeast might do even under the coldest of conditions, or is it much ado about nothing if you're drinking that beer anyway?
I don't know. I never let it sit in there long enough. I get it cold for, I'll let it set in there and condition after fermentation for a couple of weeks, and then I'll transfer it to a keg. And then, we just talked about this. I don't blame my kid not letting anything lager. Todd'd be better on that than me, but you normally would let it set cold in the keg and let it condition that way.
Before I throw it to Todd, hypothetically, if you were using the CF15 as a bright tank for the entire duration of however long it lasts, can you see a reason why that would be bad drinking beer that's sitting on top of a yeast cake 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later?
I think as long as it's cold. Now, if it's warm, I would be a little hesitant on that, because sometimes the yeast can eat itself warm, like room temp. And it can create some pretty bad off flavors, but I think it takes a while for that to happen. But I haven't had any issues with that. I think maybe years ago I had a 5-gallon fermenter at my house in the closet, and I let it set for a month, and it didn't taste good. But
yeah, it wasn't cold.
Room temp.
Yeah,
and it wasn't cold. It was sitting on the original yeast cake. If you're going to do that, transfer it and warm. Transfer it off the original yeast cake, get it off that, and do a secondary fermentation. Do it that way.
Todd, throwing it to you now. Keeping it on the yeast cake. What you're pretty dialed in on your process. You don't cold condition in the. No, pardon me. I don't know your process. Do you cold condition for a while before you transfer, or do you transfer as soon as it's ready and that's your cold condition process?
I do let it sit for a while, but I usually, when I'm done with fermentation, I will remove the yeast from the bottom. So, I just open up the valve and take the majority of the yeast off the bottom of it, and then I let it sit for a while. And more to clarify than anything else, then I'll move it into kegs, and then I'll lager it longer in the kegs.
More to clarify. I didn't consider that. You're right. That is why they have that dump valve there, right? I mean, that's why
and there's no reason. I mean, there's no advantage to leaving it on the yeast cake. So, and there could be a disadvantage. So why leave it on the yeast cake?
Okay. I didn't consider that. I was like James, I've never had issues because if I ever left it on there, it was cold, right? So, and again, I'm not smart. This isn't a shtick. This is who I really am. I'm not smart, but I always assumed, oh, it's at fridge temps. That yeast is suspended. It ain't doing nothing. Right. Like it's so I've never had any issues, but like, I guess
it was suspended or it's dropped. You mean
it's actually dropped?
Pardon me.
Out of suspension.
Out of suspension. Yeah. It is. I mean, yes, it is dropped and it's done. When I say suspended, I mean like it's inactive is what I meant.
It's dormant.
It's dormant's the word. Thank you, James. Dormant is what I was looking for. It is not active. That yeast is not necessarily dead, but it's taking a nap and it's at the bottom. I've never had issues with that. And that's one of the reasons why I haven't been too persnickety about transferring from the first keg to like a serving keg because I use a float it and it's cold. And so I'm not drawing any gunk anyway. So, and it hasn't seemed to affect the flavor. And as I say that, our alt beer, James, my pops and I, it got some off flavor recently. We only have a half a gallon of it, so it wasn't a big deal. I wonder, that was the second... That was the off of the fermenter that would have brought up gunk, right? Like we gave Todd the first servings, as you have to do to the boss man. Here's our first servings. Oh, but then our second keg.
I'm kind of like a tax collector.
You are a tax collector.
The beer tax. I'm happy to give it too.
No kidding. Absolutely. Oh man, I know where my bread is buttered, and it's Liz Burns. And if I keep Todd and Liz happy, but anyway, but the alt beer, it had this weird like twang to it, and I didn't know what the heck happened. I wonder if the yeast it is definitely in that keg. I wonder if that had anything to do with it, but it is cold. So that's a whole other episode or question to ponder. But for Dave though, cellaring and lagering, if you're lagering in the I'm conflating it right now, guys. If you are cold conditioning lagering, you should not have issues. But like Todd said, there is no direct benefit outside of my own laziness or convenience of leaving it on the yeast cage. So why not get it into a fresh vessel? Or if you have the type of fermenter that you can dump, why not take the yeast out? I gave Todd, you're talking about having all those pressure fermenters, the plastic ones. I forgot. Right. I forgot to take your rounded bottom one in exchange for the one I had that had the Trub dump collector on it. And the only reason I didn't like that, I was sometimes screwing it wrong. And so there would be a leak down there. And that's how lazy I am. I'm like, instead of using the product how it's supposed to and checking for leaks like a responsible adult, I just want an all-rounded one that I don't have to worry about it. But some people like collecting the yeast, James, because they're going to reuse it, or they want to do secondary in the same vessel and keep stuff as clean as possible, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, it's a huge savings if you have the patience and the fortitude to go through the steps that you need to correctly propagate and save yeast.
Yeah.
So, more power to them. That's just a little more work than I'm willing to do.
Yeah. And I would say to add on to this, because like the last homebrew con we took beer, one of the reasons we were all either using filters or transferring to it from a secondary keg to the serving keg was all for presentation's sake. We were doing all that transferring for clarity, not necessarily for anything that would have been done to the flavor, but we wanted our best foot forward serving our beer to homebrewers in San Diego. So that's why, like when Todd was giving me grief, there was a beer I had that was young. He was like, transfer it to another keg. That way, anything that was stuck on the bottom won't come over there with it, and it'll be as clear as that beer could possibly be. It wasn't because you were worried about off flavors and stuff like that.
No, absolutely. And I think a lot of people, probably don't necessarily realize that if they haven't transferred a keg. You could be pouring extremely clear beer and it's absolutely perfect. And then you transfer that keg around, or you take that keg to a party, you start pouring a beer and you're pouring out like yeast water, and you're like yuck, and you just don't realize it. What it does, even like what you were talking about, James, even if it goes all the way to the bottom, eventually it'll make a clean path, and you'll get clean beer. But as soon as you jostle it around, even moving a keg in the kegerator, I've done that before. So
same here.
Yeah, it's one of the clearest, brightest Kolsch's. I think may have been one that either you or Josh did. Man, you could read through it. It was one of the clearest homebrew beers I'd ever seen. One thing I noticed is I could tell when I was getting to the bottom of the keg because it started pouring cloudy. And then,
yeah.
Sure enough,
I've had that happen.
out.
Oh yeah. Which I will say too, before the concert, I went to St. Elmo's. Todd, you ever been there in Austin, St. Elmo's? Their Carl Kolsch, phenomenal. And on Mondays, only $2. So we got there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I bought the first round, and I didn't know it was $2 till I got my Kolsch. My buddy's got like double IPAs, and it was, that'll be $21. And then the next round, my other buddy bought, and we all got Kolsch, and they're like, that'll be $7 or whatever. And I was like, wait a second, y'all didn't get Kolsch on my round, you jerks. But anyway, James, that happened to me before as well, where Todd has been in my ear for many years about, you move the keg, it's going to stir it up and it's not going to be clear. Whatever, old man, stop barking at me. And I did. Moved one to my pop's house for like a party, and I was like, son of a gun. Should have transferred that.
The people that don't normally drink homebrew, the homebrewers, it's not a big deal. I mean, it isn't for me. But if you're trying to introduce somebody into homebrew, they're not going to want. A good example would be, I brewed some beer for Todd's hunting buddies, and it was really cloudy. And, I think you had several people just didn't want to drink it because it was so.
Right. Perception, right? Perception, which honestly, for opening weekend, next time I'm there, maybe I'll purposely make a beer cloudy, so I'm the only one drinking it. Like that might be the strategy going forward, is like, because it doesn't change the flavor. It might change the mental perception, but it does not change the flavor. So.
Well, I mean, it can't. I mean, if you got yeast in there, you can taste
a lot
yeast.
of yeast.
A lot. Yeah. But he just means it's a little hazy. Like it's not. He's not talking about a dishwater pour.
Well, I think that one actually was.
Oh, no way.
It was really bad.
Oh,
because I think by the time it would settled out here, but by the time he took it to the barn and hooked it up, it had just been shook, and it never poured clear, did it?
No, I mean, it was too shook up. Yeah, I should have transferred it.
There was a year. It was actually the first year that I got invited to opening weekend. Who brewed? Which one of y'all did the Yingling clone? Was that?
I did one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I remember you. I don't remember who brewed it. I guess it was you. I do remember us taking it over to Rob's place a week before because you were worried about clarity, and it ended up being crystal clear. It was, in that beer I'm pretty confident that was the one we floated on night one. 5 gallons, 2 people. No, I'm kidding. There was like 12 people, but it went quick. Men on opening weekend drink.
Yeah, we don't just drink beer. That's just we tend to drink hard liquor for most of the night. So
yeah.
We start out with beer.
We start out with beer.
Sometimes we finish with beer.
But wait, what's the beer before liquor? Feeling better quicker, liquor before beer, her rear. I don't remember the things.
Never fear.
Yeah, never fear.
Beer before liquor, never sicker.
No. I think they're both positive. I think the sayings are both positive. That's how I understood
liquor
them.
Before beer. Liquor before beer, never fear.
And beer before liquor, never sicker.
Never sicker.
Liquor, hardly know her. Anyways, Dave from Kansas City, thank you so much for submitting.
And by the way, I don't follow that at all.
I was going to say, they're both positive in my eyes. Okay. Dave, we do sincerely appreciate your question, as well as the one from Stuart and Scott. Gentlemen, that's all I have for y'all this week. I appreciate the early record time, and I won't see y'all next week. You jerks, you're going to be on a plane. We're not. So
you were invited.
No, I know. But I'm saying, correct me if I'm wrong. Well, first off, 2 things. One, when you're sending photos in the group one, text me immediately to make sure I get them this time, James. Because now they
probably just WhatsApp them.
Perfect. WhatsApp.
So the whole trip he didn't go. God, Josh is just ignoring.
Josh hates me. I know. If I don't want to see it, I would have replied, "Keep them to yourself." But anyway, Quit bragging. When y'all are there, correct me if I'm wrong. Next week is not when y'all can do the show because that is the brow. The following week, y'all, we're gonna try to coordinate so y'all can call. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood correctly because I'm trying to get Jonathan on the show and I forget what his availability was. He's a pilot. He has to work. So we'll figure that out. But y'all have a safe... We
want to do it at 5:00 our time. We decided. So
okay. What time is that for me? Like 9? 8, 10?
Midnight.
Oh, no, you're ahead of me, dummy. Are you talking about 5 a.m.? Yeah. You want to do it at 5 a.m. your time? I doubt it. I'll take.
Oh, I thought you meant 5 p.m.
He meant 5.
Like, that's 9 in the morning. That's not bad.
That's not bad at all. If Todd wants to do it,
true.
10.
Sorry,
no.
I'd scratch that reverse.
No,
we want to do it
at 6 a.m. your time? Yeah, right when we wake up. You're not gonna be up at 6 a.m. German. Come on, take it easy. When y'all are.
Like, 9 a.m. our time. There you go.
I'll be up. There we go. I'll party hard. Josh Brown's going to be at the barn with me. We'll stay up and party hard and then do the podcast at 2 in the morning.
It's like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Why do you think I'm not going to be up at 6 a.m.? I wake up every morning at 6 a.m.
I just assume.
Whether I want to or not.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forget you're old. Anyways, with that being said, guys, I appreciate y'all's time. I'll talk to y'all later.
All right. Bye-bye. Yeah.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episad, you could go to homebrewhappyhour.com. You could email joshua@homebrewhappyhour.com, but even better, go and call. Pick up your phone. Touchpad dial? Is that what it was? I don't know. Just call in to 325-305-6107. And when I play it on a future episode, get yourself a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. Thank you to our show sponsors like Munton's Malt, premium grains for a better brew day. If you aren't already using Munton's Malt, give them a try by joining the Chub Club at a recipe receiving level. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a pack of premium imperial yeast along with delicious recipes from us when you join the Chub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.